years ago, I think it is no mean achievement that we're finally able to have these international events taking place in person after what has been an incredibly difficult few years. And you all know, as well as I do, how tough it's been for societies around the world. And if we reflect, I think, on those past 3 years, from an industry perspective, the industry is still in the process of recovery from the pandemic. In effect, we're trying to get back to where we were globally. The challenges that the pandemic threw up for the automotive industry were significant, and you still see them in today's supply chain challenges, shortages, constraint production affecting sales. The strategic shift that has taken place over that 3 years with a great focus on decarbonisation, zero emission solutions. We made reference to COP26 and the commitment globally that was made to decarbonise road transport. And that's significant because whatever the deadline that countries will set, 2030, 2050, 2070, here in India, you cannot achieve road transport, achieve net zero without decarbonising road transport. In many countries, certainly the UK, the most significant contributor to CO2 emissions and to climate change is road transport. So it's fundamental that the industry works and develops solutions that will decarbonise road transport. And we are seeing them in increasing numbers. As far as the UK is concerned, the timescale is very short. Effectively, we will end the sale of new cars we see commitments from Jaguar fully electric by 2025. We see another Bentley saying 2030. Other major international brands in the 2030s looking at electric out of fossil fuel dependence into alternative technologies. And it's not just passenger cars. The importance of this market is two wheels. We're also looking about into commercial vehicles and also have to move away from diesel dependency. Again, in the UK, they've set a deadline, 2040. And 2040, effectively considering where the technology is tomorrow. We have to develop a range of solutions for different use cases. For passenger cars, electrification will work, probably in the UK, in Europe. I've said 2030, we have forthcoming legislation which will effectively compel individual brands to selling an increasing proportion of their cars and vans to be electrified, getting towards about 80%. In Europe, they've set effective target for 2035. In America, they're setting targets where half new vehicle sales will have to be electrified by 2035. This is a momentum that will not stop and will pick up. But what really matters is finding the solution that meets the market demand. The industry's invested a huge amount of money globally, something like £50 billion in terms of decarbonising the vehicles. But they've got to make those vehicles affordable. What works in one market may not work in another. And certainly one of the things we see here in talking to our colleagues at SIAM and so forth is the variety of approaches. In UK, it is predominantly a single solution, electrification. Here in India, you have better domestic alternatives potentially, looking at ethanol, looking at flex fuel, looking at the different blends, finding the right solution that allows you to decarbonise both new vehicles and the existing fleet as soon as possible is the secret. And again, reflect what local demands are, local needs, local affordability, and also local supply. If you're thinking about electrification, what really matters isn't just what you're putting into the vehicle, it's where that energy comes from. Are you decarbonising your electricity grid? Is there sufficient energy to power these vehicles? These are all some of the challenges around electrifying and decarbonising road transport. The solutions are not just in the gift of the automotive sector. They depend on other stakeholders, on government, on energy,
charge point providers, fuel industry, and also very much depends on the consumer acceptance of these new vehicles, these new technologies. But the prize is there. The prize is there, a decarbonised, sustainable road transport system. Yes, zero emission at point of use, but look upstream, as I said, at how you derive that energy. Look downstream, what happens to the vehicle at its end of its life, how you dispose of it. Again, one of the issues around batteries is what are you going to do? Some of them will have a second life. How you dispose of them sensitively and sensibly and develop that circular economy, because it's not just about the emissions from use, it's about the total emissions of mobility and the provision of transportation. And again, let's be totally clear, we need to ensure that we continue to provide that transportation, that mobility to society. Society depends on it. Accessing education, accessing work, moving goods, moving services. The other thing that the pandemic brought home to bear is the dependence we have on mobility to get those medical supplies, food supplies to people, given that in many countries, certainly the UK, they were locked down. The only place they were allowed to go to was the shop, the supermarket to get food. Totally dependent on the provision of road transport.
Entire value chain of the automobile industry to be set up, and we are moving in that direction. Coming to the electric mobility, speakers before me have identified that we have to reach the aim of net zero by 2070, and by 2030 we have to reduce our carbon emissions by 1 billion tons of emissions. Then the Panchamrit, which has been laid out by our Honorable Prime Minister, all the 5 goals of decarbonization, and we are on the road to that. And electric mobility is an important part of it. Till 5th of January, about 5.2% vehicles sold in India were electric vehicles. And this number has risen from last year, it was about 2.6%. So the growth has almost doubled in numbers. Of course, most of the growth is coming from two-wheelers. We produce a large number of two-wheelers, but then also in buses. The Government of India has launched several schemes to promote the manufacture of electric vehicles in India. And one of them, the first one of them was the FAME scheme, the faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles in India. After FAME 1, some lessons were learned, and FAME 2, the phase 2 was launched in April 2019. The FAME scheme is a demand incentive scheme. So as you know that the price of electric vehicles is a little higher than the ICE vehicles, and upfront subsidies offered to the consumers so that the cost reduces. And FAME scheme is geared towards shared mobility, towards public transportation. So a lot of subsidy for buses. There was a large number of people use buses, and if you look at pollution levels in Delhi and also in the nearby areas, one of the aims is to reduce the emission levels in these big cities we have. So in buses, FAME offers up to 40% of the cost of the vehicle as subsidy. Up till now, about 7,000 buses have been subsidized under the scheme. And lots of them are on road. They are in various stages of coming, and I believe that in the next 1 year, all of these buses will be on road. And we have more plans to incentivize buses. Then, if we talk of public transportation, then electric three-wheelers. In three-wheelers, more than 50% of the sales are drawn from electric vehicles. ICE vehicles are little less than the number. In buses, about 17% are electric buses sold in India, but in three-wheelers it is 54%. In two-wheelers, its number is less than 5%, but it's rising very rapidly. Last year it was half of it, about 2.5 to 2.6%. So we realize that demand incentive is one way to increase the number of electric vehicles. But the other way is like on the supply side. We must look at the manufacturers. How we can help the OEMs. What about the electricity? It is being drawn all of these, whether it is clean or not.
From 3.5% of our target to now close to 75% of the target in time span of less than 2 years. 3.5 to 75. That is the change. In buses, amazing. Mahua is sitting right there. She has been at the center of the feed. You know, we started with 5,450 buses that moved on. And what we could establish was amazing. That if the right model is adopted, right contractual model is adopted, probably the cost of, why probably, definitely, the cost of buses were exhibited. The entire cost was found to be less than that of the diesel, CNG and any of the other ones. That was amazing thing. Because then most of the states, rather than fretting away our energy on 62 odd cities, we decided that we must focus on 9 cities alone. We must go for a grand challenge. Ask them first whether you are interested in it to our initiative or not. Only 5 of them exhibited their interest, and with this, these were the cities where the population was 4 million plus, and that is how this 5,450 buses in first go, and that gave us tremendous confidence to us that we can take the national electric bus program to a scale of 50,000. That is what the target we set for ourselves. Now with that, another second tranche was for 6,465 buses. That was the second time number, and the third one is moving forward. That is for 4,700. So these are the big numbers that we are going ahead with. These are really big numbers. These are really, really big numbers, because in South America last year, the number of electric buses that were registered was 1,000. US and Canada combined together was 1,500. Entire Europe, all the 24 countries that have taken to electrification, it is 2,300 odd kind of buses. That is the registration last year. So this is the kind of thing that Chief Secretary's conference. Why it is that the vehicles on them should not be like that. They should be also like that. Why public transport system should not be upscale? It should be upscale. So probably that is the approach that is being taken, and the best part today is, whenever you attempt to bring about a global disruption into the country, what is needed is probably the political leadership's commitment. That is there, it is sacrosanct, they are just by us. You need those who are into policy framing, policy makers, they have to be also synergized into it. Those who are into the implementation task of it, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Ministry of Power, Mode, everybody is kind of lined up, and not to miss out the industry players. Sushant, industry has to be with us. Without that it won't work. So when you say you stand by a nation, by the nation, when you say that you want to electrify the country, you bring about electrification of transport responsibly, that means a big thing. And we all know it all well, you see. Which industries survive? Industries that are committed to quality. Industries which are absolutely, they develop control over the supply chain. Industry that are globally competitive. Industry that is into ethical values. So an industry that is able to combine all 4 of them together, they are the only ones which survive. What should we do so that the cost of
तो इस तरह से आपने सुना, सुधेंदु सिन्हा जी ने सभी इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट को ये आगाह किया कि इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल का ज़माना है और उसे लेकर सभी लोगों को आगे आने की ज़रूरत है। नेशन फर्स्ट। पूरे वर्ल्ड में भारत का जो वाहन उद्योग है वो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल की ओर जा रहा है। आज़ादी की अमृत गाथा के आरजेएस आज़ादी की अमृत गाथा का 116वां कार्यक्रम 12 जनवरी 2023 को ऑटो एक्सपो की थीम पर आधारित किया गया ग्लोबल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन मोबिलिटी समिट, ये सियाम द्वारा आयोजित किया गया। सोसाइटी फॉर इंडियन ऑटोमोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर्स सियाम के द्वारा ये ग्लोबल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन मोबिलिटी समिट 12 जनवरी 2023 को एक्सपो सेंटर में ऑटो एक्सपो के दरमियान आयोजित किया गया। और अब एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर प्रशांत बनर्जी एड्रेस कर रहे हैं ग्लोबल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन मोबिलिटी समिट को। सियाम के एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर।
Because of the schedule readjustment, you made it. So many thanks to you. And Bhimanwar sir, again, despite you landed at 3 a.m. in the morning, you are here. We appreciate, sir. The commitment of Niti Aayog in policy formulation, the industry ministry's commitment in seeing the industry implementation of the policies, and state level, Bhimanwar sir, the implementation of the last mile registration of the vehicles and road tax related issues are commendable. Mike, you are a friend of SIAM and you are the leader. You have been attending various electrification related discussions, discourse, and you have been always helping us. So your presence actually add value to the discussion. And my friend Sushant, the electric mobility chair, we are very thankful to the August gathering here, and I'm looking forward for a very, very exciting time as our president who had to leave for another engagement, but his direction in defining SIAM's advocacy policy for long term, and he has summarized it that we have entered into and committed ourselves to the sustainable mobility advocacy concoction, the 10-point initiatives wherein we are targeting first, the road safety is our priority for sustainable mobility, and you will be seeing action on road safety, but notwithstanding the sustainable earth requirement point of view, our bio initiatives, electrification, and of course hydrogen initiatives coupled with fleet modernization and recycling is seen in a 4 important decarbonization initiative. So one is electrification, which in Hindi national language translates Vidyutikaran. So today is the unveiling of the same initiative, and you will be hearing more under this key messaging. So we are extremely thankful to the August gathering present here, and you will be seeing the very electrified actions on the electrification journey of India. So we are very proud of your presence. Thank you very much. With this, may I hand over the next proceedings to the organizers.
Thank you, sir. It is now time to felicitate our guests with a token of our appreciation. May I request Mr. Sushant Nayak to kindly felicitate our guests. To Dr. Hanif Qureshi,